So the first thing I want to do is plot the headcount growth. So I use the headcount here. Now I want to plot this headcount by year and quarter. So here I have the financial year. So which table we should use to plot the timeline by date? It should be always date table. We should not take the date from the headcount table. The reason is date table is the dimension table, and we should use the date table to slice and dice, dimension table to slice and dice, not the value from the headcount table or the fact table. Right? So now let's look at this. So we bring the financial year from the date table, and then we also bring the quarter here. Now we have the quarterly headcount here. Right? And now I'm going to copy this and then create another view which shows the trend. Now which view gives you a clear view of the trend?
Second one.
Obviously the second one, because if you want to plot a trend across time, we always use a line chart. But categorical comparison, we use a column chart. For example, if you want to analyze, the next one is the customer wise revenue. So if we bring the customer from the customer table, okay, not here, I should have brought the customer from the customer table, because customer table is the dimension table. So I should bring the customer table name from the customer table, and then revenue from the measure. So we see the revenue by customer. Now I can use a clustered column chart, but I want to split this by year. So I bring the financial year from the legend. So this basically shows what is the revenue by customer. We'll change the look and feel of it later, but then it shows the revenue by customer by year. Now I'll give if I bring the headcount total to this, it would give me a better view to see what is my headcount allocation versus the customer revenue. But then I cannot bring the headcount total to this table because it's a clustered column chart. So my question is, if I want to bring the headcount total, if I want to include the headcount total also here, how can I do that? I want to show both revenue and headcount total.
The chart which can show X and Y axis together.
Yeah. Which chart is that? This one. Line and clustered column chart, or stacked one. Line and stacked. This is the combo chart with a secondary axis. So if I use this one, right, and then I can bring the average headcount to the y-axis. Now let's remove the filter here, because we are only filtering the axiom. So let's delete the filter for now. So now it shows, okay, what is the headcount and the numbers, right? The headcount and the revenue numbers. Now some of these customers don't have any headcount allocated, especially the intercompany transfers. So if you use a metrics table, you see that the average headcount is blank for some of the customers, like various SMB clients. It's a licensing revenue. Nexacore. There is no headcount here. So how can I remove the clients where I don't have any headcount deployed? I do not want to show the revenue for the accounts where I don't have any headcount deployed. Understood the problem?
I think we can filter it, right? We can filter it,
right? We should filter it. So what I do, I will go to the customer table, and either I can remove it, remove the customers one by one, or what I do is, if I go to average headcount, and then I say headcount is greater than 0. So now we see only the headcount, which is greater than 0. And now if I change this back to the clustered column chart, we see a clear view. Now look at this chart for a second, and then tell me, what do you see here? Do you see any issue?
Yeah, there are no relatable numbers that we can see.
Like it is clumsy to understand.
Look at this. No, I mean, there are too many data points, but look at the headcount, look at the revenue, and then do you notice any issue there?
Yeah, the issue is the exact headcount we cannot able to identify over there. Like.
Yeah, so, okay, now let's look at only the line trend, right? Just look at the line movement and the columns. And then see if you notice something there. And what is this? What is this columns? Columns are showing. What is this columns?
Revenue.
Revenue. And what is the line?
Headcount.
Headcount. And do you see a spike here? Not spike, but if you look at this particular, if you look at every other customer, look at this Suntech. Your headcount is more or less in alignment with the revenue. I mean, your headcount and revenue is okay. But when it comes to Meridian, look at this. Your headcount is way too high
Than revenue.
than the revenue, right?
Yes.
Rest every customer, we do not see that problem. But then if you look at Meridian, and what other customer you see that issue?
Pinnacle also.
Pinnacle also, right? So we see that we have deployed, a large number of headcounts there. I mean, significantly higher headcount for these two customers, but we are not seeing that revenue growth because we should have seen the revenue also growing or a higher revenue because we have deployed a higher headcount. But then the revenue, if you look at comparatively the other accounts, the revenue is more or less the same. In fact, the Pinnacle revenue is less than many other accounts. But then in terms of the headcount, we have deployed a large number of significantly higher headcount there, right?
Yes.
So the problem is evident that we have issues with the two customers there.
Yes, correct.
Right? But it could be normal because it doesn't mean that actually, just because we have deployed a large number of accounts or significantly higher headcount compared to the other accounts, what if actually, we have deployed all the lower banded people for these two accounts, and that is why the headcount is showing significantly higher.
Correct.
So
Maybe grade mix will
compare cost.
It's only the headcount, but when it comes to cost, actually, we are still the cost is manageable because they're all lower banded people. But how do we validate that?
So instead of the count of headcount, you try to put the
maybe we can
cost
put the cost.
cost.
Right? Headcount cost.
We can put the cost, but then what if we check the profitability by customer? If there is no cost impact, then the profitability should be good.
Yeah, correct.
Right? So
yes.
So what I would do next is, okay, I do see actually, there is a headcount problem. It's very evident that, okay, we are deploying significantly higher headcount, but we are not seeing that revenue growth for these two customers. Now I want to see, okay, because I have deployed this significantly higher number of customers, is there a profitability impact on profit? So I want to check I want to look at the profitability by customer. Right? So now I'll bring the customer here, and then I'll bring the profit percentage, and maybe I'll use a bar chart, and then I'll split this because this is giving me the profit for the entire period from 2022 to 2024, but I want to split this by year. Right? So I'll bring this legend here. Now look at this. If you put the data label, I go to the format and then I'll enable the data label. We cover the formatting later, but then look at these numbers. If profitability percentage, let us change that to a percentage here. It's general, it should be percentage. Now look at this. Do you see anything wrong? And again, we should remove the Nexacore from here also. So what I will do is, I do not want to see the Nexacore and the SMB clients, the blank ones across the pages. And I want to exclude these entities from my reporting, suppose. Or if I want to exclude these entities only from my current page, I can manage it again using the filters. So if I bring the entities here to the filter on this page, and I can select everything and then remove this one. I'll remove the Nexacore, and then the SMB clients. Okay, so now look at this view. Now, is this view telling you something?
Yes. Meridian and Pinnacle, again, the profit is not in line with the other entities.
Right.
They just producing 70, 77. And in the year 3, it is much, much less.
16.69, in fact, and 13.41. So we see the problem, there's a bigger problem because in spite of the headcount growing or adding headcount, it is not.
They're not adding to the bottom line.
Exactly. It's not helping us to book the revenue. So this is something that the business should start investigating. So what do you do? What do you do next? So maybe you will go back to the delivery and ask them, why is that we are, adding headcount, but it is not reflecting when it comes to the revenue growth. And then maybe the delivery says, okay, no, we are investing for the future growth. The revenues, we start booking the revenue from the next year onwards. And then you document it, and then you keep monitoring the trend. And then you go back to your leadership, your CFO, your finance leadership, your business stakeholders, and show them this view. Tell them that, hey, this is a problem. We have a problem with these two customers, and we are seeing a very bad, profitability. The profitability is really bad. It's going from bad to worse, and this is what we hear from the delivery. Now the business will take a call, right? How do we want to handle the situation? Should we allow is this a delivery problem, or is it actually, the actual reason is that we are investing for a future growth? But no matter what, what is important for us is, okay, we share this insight to the business. Now, there are only 3 things that we want to show to the business when it comes to the report 1: the headcount growth, the customer revenue versus the headcount, and the profitability by customer. Just 3 metrics. Now, there will be additional questions. And what will be the questions? Why is that? What is the average revenue? I mean, what is happening with the average revenue per headcount for the different customers? And what is the grade mix? So is it a particular, we see that there is a profitability issue. Since when we have this profitability issue? So we want to analyze all that. But then we are not going to put everything into a single report, and that will confuse your business stakeholders, and that will dilute the impact also, right? Because most Power BI reports, if you look at, actually, it is clumsy. It is cluttered with too many metrics, too many charts. So it's not the right thing to do in my experience working with the stakeholders. Clear so far?
Yes, Amish.
Yeah. Now, looking at this one chart, right? Now, if you share this chart with the stakeholder, right, the headcount growth, what is the issue with this? What do you, is there a problem? I mean, if you show them the trend, right? And what will be their question if you are presenting this to the CFO? What will be his or her question?
If the revenue growth aligned with the headcount growth, so that is what you want to know.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's just an information. Your revenue is growing, so obviously the question will be, okay, I see that the headcount is growing. Is this good, bad? Are we good? Are we also adding the revenue? I mean, are we booking the revenue as well? Is it helping us to grow our revenue? So that is why we should bring the revenue also here. So now look at the numbers. What do you see here?
Yeah, it is in line with the revenue. No, the headcount.
But what is happening from 2024? Do you see this gap is shrinking? Narrowing? Yeah. So what does it tell us? See, starting from here, 4th quarter, we started degrowing the revenue. But what is happening with the headcount? Is the headcount growing or degrowing?
Growing.
We are adding. Is that a problem?
Yes. So some product is not doing good. So we need to
Exactly. And then we need to, the second report, third report, fourth report that you build should be to explain each one of this problem, right? So we don't try to put everything and then show them granular level view. No, give them a high level view. In 5 minutes, you give them an update. This is how we are doing this summary update. Now, 2, 3 problems, call out 2 or 3 problems, and then build your second, third, fourth report to explain that. Now, we will do the formatting, all that later, but your second report should be to explain to understand what's happening with the customer level, at the customer level. See what is the average headcount, sorry, what is the average revenue per headcount for each customer? It's a very important metric, right? So I want to know how much we are making per headcount for each customer. So how do I do that? So I start with my customer. I'll create a matrix view, and then I bring my customer here in rows, and then I will create average revenue per headcount. So how do I create that view? New measure, measure number 12, average revenue per headcount equals
Average X.
no, so we have the revenue and we have the average headcount, right?
Okay.
So we can divide. If you divide revenue by the average headcount that we have already calculated, right? So it should give us the average headcount, average revenue per headcount. So look at this. So here we have the average revenue per headcount, and then I will bring the year. Obviously, I want to analyze this by year, so I'll bring the year, and then now it shows, okay, 4.6 million, 5.3 million, 5.4 million. But what about the two accounts?
Meridian and Pinnacle.
What's happening with their average revenue? 2024. So look at the other headcount, other customers. Look at 2024, 5.4 million Axiom, 2.6 million Blue Star, 6.5 million, 4.8 million, 6.8 million, but 1.4 million and 1.5 million, 5.9. So these two customers, we have
even Blue Star is reduced its sales compared to the
exactly. It's almost 50% reduced. So there's a problem here also.
So just tell me one thing, so we are seeing it by way of average headcount. Shouldn't we see it based on the salaries upon the revenue? Because that is what your profitability is, right?
You mean based on the cost?
Yeah, based on cost, yeah.
So based on cost, then it is basically the average salary per headcount.
Customer. Yeah.
For customer.
Per customer.
But since we are see, our salary is our internal thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but average cost we can say, not salary, average cost per customer.
Yeah, because that's what the profit is all about.
Exactly. So average revenue, we can look at average revenue, we can look at what is their average cost as well. Obviously, we should see an increase in the cost, or is the cost staying flat? So we can look at that as well. Now, what is the cost impact? So you can divide let's say, create a measure. Let's say 13, average cost per headcount, divide cost average headcount, 0. Yeah, so we see that issue, right? So we see the cost 2.3 million, 1 million to 1.1 million. So here, Blue Star, we see cost. There is a corresponding reduction in the cost as well.
Yeah, there's a dip in the cost also.
Right, but then when it comes to Meridian, in spite of degrowing the revenue, we still see an increase in the cost. Right, so, and that is what that's exactly what was reflecting in the profitability as well, numbers.
Yeah.
Right, so we knew that actually, the cost was staying flat, or it was actually shooting up. Otherwise, the profit would have stayed flat.
Yeah, they had a margin of 16-17%.
Exactly, margin of 16-17%. Correct. So now we can include both, or we can include just one, depending on the requirement. Okay.
Why is it showing a total? How do we exclude this total? I mean,
we can exclude it here. We don't want to show the total. Yeah, so we can just exclude the row subtotal and column subtotal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, looks much cleaner. Now, one thing I also want to see is what is this average headcount trend? I mean, average revenue headcount trend. Since when we have this problem. So I would put put this, on a line chart, look at my financial year, bring my financial year and my quarter, and then I will bring the average revenue y-axis, and then I can clearly see the problem here, and the issue started from the beginning of 2024. Now, if we have a dashboard, if we have a report that gives us the real-time view, then we don't need to do a postmortem job. We have the insights real time, and then we can go back to the business and say that, hey, now there's some issue. Now we got to fix it. So most of the time, what happens is we go back to the business after the damage has happened. So the real-time dashboard reports help us to immediately stay alert, and then continuously monitor, and then go back to the delivery, and then go back to the business, and then share the update. Now the last thing that I wanted to do is the root cause of the problem. I want to look at the grade mix as well, right? I want to see what is the grade mix for this customer. Meaning, have we deployed higher banded people? Where is this cost? How is the grade mix from customer to customer? To compare the grade mix. That's a very important one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so we can look at their cost. We can look at their cost percentage. For example, let's look at the grade mix for each customer. Let's say I have the customer here, customer name here. Let's bring the customer name in columns, and then I will bring the cost here. So we should hide because this includes all the overhead expenses as well. So we should exclude the overhead ones. So what we will do is we will exclude the blank. We will exclude the Nexa, and then so now these are only the billable headcount. So overhead we will look at it separately. So is that okay? We'll take another 5 minutes to finish this last one, everyone.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so let's do this. See, what is the problem with this view? See, it shows the cost here, 83, 148, but it doesn't help us to make any decision. Unless we show some percentage, right? So I want to know the mix.
Interpretation problem.
Exactly. So how do you help the stakeholders to quickly understand the grade mix deployment? So what we should do is, I want to see, instead of showing the cost, I want to see, okay, for Axiom, what is the junior analyst cost to the overall cost for Axiom in terms of percentage? And then I can compare that same with the blue star. Now, how do I calculate 83,000 divided by 394? Any thoughts? I want to divide 83,000 by 394, right? If I want to calculate the percentage.
Yeah. No idea.
So remember, we talked about removing the filter, because what is happening here is, when I bring this total cost here, what are the filter context here? Can you tell me what are the filter context here?
Junior analyst. And
grade, right? It's filtering based on the grade, 83,000, and also Axiom customer.
Yeah,
right. Now, I want to tell DAX that please ignore this grade. So if I tell DAX that please ignore this grade, it is going to give me 394 for all rows, because it is not going to filter. Right? But how do I tell DAX that please ignore this grade?
Filter all, right?
This is where we use the all function, right? So we use the all function. So we say that all grade cost equals calculate cost, comma, all grade. When I do this, what happens? DAX will calculate the cost, but then it will apply a filter. It will in fact remove the filter from the grade. Now let's look at, if I bring this all grade, you see this 394 everywhere. right? But then I do not want this 394, but what I wanted is I want to divide this cost 83,000 with the 394. So I use a divide function here, and then I ask DAX to divide this cost by the total, and then give me 0, right? And it should be actually 14. So now if I do this, instead of cost, if I do this, it will give me the percentage, and I can just change the value to percentage here. So now look at this. Junior analyst, 21.17, 35%, 21%. So it gives me a view by customer. So I can either actually, by grade, I can do it like this. And then it shows for junior analyst what is the percentage for each. Which customer has a higher percentage. So lead consultant 37, 30, 36, 40 or 37. But then look at these two, Meridian and Pinnacle, 45 and 47. And lead consultant, we know that it's a high banded role. And obviously the cost is going to be higher.
Yeah.
Right? Now we can go back to the delivery. We can go back to the project team and then ask, why is that the lead consultant cost is very high for these two customers?
Well, the income is also not in proportion to the cost that we incur.
Exactly, right? And we start asking these questions when we notice these issues about the revenue and profitability. We start drilling down and then understand, okay, now why is that we have deployed lead consultants, more number of lead consultants in these two for these two customers. And then we can also do one thing. We can also create a revenue bracket. Based on the revenue, we create a bracket. For example, customers who are between 1 to 3 million revenue, customers who are between 3 to 5 million revenue, 5 to 10 million revenue, or more than 10 million annual revenue. Now compare this grade mix for the different brackets, for the different buckets. Look at the headcount where you are making 3 to 5 million revenue. And then see, for a 3 to 5 million revenue, for account A, you have deployed 5 lead consultants. And for account B, we have deployed only 2. Then you can question, okay, what is happening with this account? Why is that we have more number of lead consultants deployed there? Is there a way we can optimize it? But unless we drill down and then look at all these aspects, we are not really stopping the leakage. Right? So once you set up these numbers, once you set up the views in Power BI, every month all that we do is just refresh the data, and then we see, okay, based on the discussion with the delivery team, do we see any improvement next month? If there is no improvement, then we start investigating and questioning again.
So is there a place to take a note of your observation and store it over here to come back and see again the next month?
Not here.
Within the page. No, nothing. Okay.
Yeah, not here. We would not do that here. But rather we keep it separate, actually, the minutes of the meeting, or use a Word document or an email to document all that, or Notion or similar tools.
Got it.
Right? Because we need to keep multiple versions, right? After every discussion we should document something.
True.
Okay, so now the two reports are already revealing what's happening with the headcount and cost and profitability. Now we can keep adding more, analysis based on the stakeholder requirements. The third report definitely we want to include is the overhead cost analysis, which is very, very important. Right? So we are going to do that in the next session, and then we will complete the formatting, and we will, build the interactivity, we will control the interactivity, all that we do that actually. In the next session, we will finish the headcount report, and then we can move to the next one. Okay, but the next session is Thursday. So my request is try to finish this report till here before Thursday. And then any questions we can discuss throughout the week.